Can you imagine if school was a Minecraft server? Well, now it is. And I brought 100 players into that server to see what might happen. I randomly assigned 20 of them to be teachers and the rest students, divided into 4 houses competing to be the top in their class. But only the best of the best get to make it to graduation. If anyone fails, they're eliminated from the game. Will the students follow their teacher's rules, or will they disobey and be expelled? You'll have to keep watching to find out. Players were welcomed to their school as those chosen to be students started flooding out of buses. They were greeted right away by the chosen school staff who were already waiting for them. The students almost immediately began running around, exploring all the school locations that were open and meeting fellow players who would become their classmates. Some rushed to check out the cafeteria, possibly hoping to steal a snack. Some ran through the halls of the main school, while others excitedly went to explore their colorful kindergarten classrooms or decided to hang out by the big, beautiful fountain surrounded by cherry trees. As the students and school staff got settled in, it was time to see how everyone was feeling so far. All right, well, welcome to the school. Are you excited?
Oh yeah, you better believe it. I'm about to kick some butt in this competition.
No, I'm definitely excited. It's just, the competition seems really fierce, and I really hope that nobody bullies me.
I mean, look at me. I'm a banana. If I'm not one of the popular kids, then I don't know who would be.
I mean, being vice principal's not an easy job, but hey, someone's got to do it. And I'll do anything to keep order over this school. Anything.
Even starting from day one, cliques were already starting to form between kindergartners. A few of the students already had best friends that they were hoping to be teamed up with. Another small group had decided they were now the popular kids of the school, shunning some of the other kids who wanted to join them and even mocking them at times. Meanwhile, in a more secluded area, one student had already started bribing one of the teachers with food they had managed to steal, hoping they'd get some extra leverage later on. The teacher accepted the bribe as their pupil happily ran off. The time for hanging out eventually ended as everyone was called together for their first school meeting. Students all filtered into the auditorium and began grabbing seats. They waited excitedly to hear about the details of the challenge and how they could possibly win. It was time for the students to meet the principal and vice principal. With everyone gathered, Principal Phosphorus gave his speech.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Bronzo Academy. School is in session, so listen closely. I will not repeat myself. Those who think this challenge will be easy as ABC are dead wrong. This school will break you down, build you up, and break you down again. Bronzo Academy will be split into 4 sections: kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, and high school. Students will be split into 4 different houses: yellow, red, blue, and green. Students will earn points for their respective houses by completing rigorous challenges, proving their intelligence, strength, wit, and creativity. Those who misbehave will not only have points deducted from their respective houses, but will face far greater consequences such as detention and even expulsion. Do I make myself clear? Great. Now then, let's proceed.
The students left the auditorium and went to put on their new school uniforms. Then, they each got to know their new friends in their house common areas. All right, hey, what's going on over here?
They split us up. We were trio, and they split us up. I'm yellow now.
Oh, well, could you maybe trade with a green person?
I can?
Come on, do it.
We could try.
Yay!
Oh my goodness.
All right, and good luck with that. The vice principal had shown up and gave Human and Ninja detention for trying to switch houses.
I saw what just happened. All 4 of you, to detention, now.
Rumors were already spreading about the vice principal and how strict he was. Some even wondered if he had other motives in this challenge. Now that they were able to split up into classrooms, the first lessons officially began. The teachers started instructing their students on various topics, but the thing that seemed to be at the forefront of everything was parkour. More towards classroom was learning about the dangers of magma blocks and how to best traverse them. Meanwhile, Ravenroo was teaching her students about slime blocks and their jump boosts in order to use them as efficiently as possible. Luckily, most of the learning students were able to grasp the material. Most of them. With the first round of classes over and the teams decided, most students had gone to explore their new homes. A few of them had made their way to claim their dorm rooms and find some some roommates, while others had gone to explore all the locations of the new academy. As people were getting to know the open locations in the school, a few teachers and students were eager to talk concerning their thoughts about the school and its people. So you were saying that you're not a big fan of the vice principal?
No, he keeps sending people to detention. Like, what is detention? How do you spell detention?
All right, so you have been wanting to start something really nice for your team.
Yeah, we don't know what it's gonna be yet, because we don't really have access to anything. But I think we'll either we can find flowers or something, maybe, and just give them to people.
Oh, do you think, is this in sport too so that you can get some points for your team?
Partly that, maybe, if they'll even consider that, but also just so people feel nice.
Have you noticed any students that you are like, oh, they're gonna be good? I already like them.
Yeah, there's definitely some people I have my eyes on, and there's some troublemakers as well that I'm not looking forward to dealing with, but, that's a class.
Before students were sent to class, the Blue House had decided to gift everyone flowers as a show of good faith and friendship among each other, which didn't go unnoticed by the staff as they decided to reward the house with some points. Students were soon sent to class, where they would meet their assigned teachers and be told what to expect if they misbehaved in or outside of the class.
If a student is caught cheating on a test or an assignment, they will be sent to detention. If you are caught fighting or bullying any of your fellow students,
You will also be punished with detention with multiple offenses leading to expulsion.
Disobeying teachers or entering restricted areas like the teacher's lounge or offices will not be tolerated.
Detention means you're going to get separated from your fellow students during free time or playtime, and you could even miss class or be excluded from participating in challenges. This means you could miss out on adding points to your house's total.
Soon the classes had began their next lessons. The teachers quizzed their students on their crafting knowledge by putting different recipes on the board. Some were challenging formulas that left the students stumped. The solution to the puzzles were in a chest by the board, but the trick was to select the right one. Any others were red herrings.
All right, class, line up, one at a time.
Some students were confident in their abilities to get it right, while others failed miserably. If someone got the correct answer, the teacher changed the recipe and continued on until the whole class had answered one correctly. Overall, it was a good lesson for the students and likely to be vital information in the near future. Even though the challenge had just begun, students could tell the vice principal, Endershadow, was going to be very strict, and he would not tolerate any misconduct or troublemakers. Some students had already been sent to detention.
Apparently, I was 3 seconds late after the bell rang. Like, who cares?
I accidentally knocked a painting off the wall, but it's just a block. I couldn't have put it back.
I wasn't walking in a straight line.
I got excited and ran to the playground. I didn't know we weren't supposed to go there yet.
Don't hit each other, man. You guys deserve detention. All right, well, goodbye. The students then had their first assignment. They had to start practicing on a parkour course. This would be in preparation for the final exam to graduate from kindergarten to elementary school. Each house had a crazy course that they would test their skills on. Some houses had harder courses than others, but by and by, they were all very complex. They had difficult ladder climbing, ice to glide on, even magma they had to crouch and jump over. One even had a redstone contraption, making it so they had to time their jumps precisely. Luckily, the server was set to peaceful mode for the practice, so no student would get seriously injured. That being said, these obstacles were no joke, and students were worried about how tough the actual exam would be if this was the practice course. While the students were busy practicing their parkour, the vice principal had to talk to one of the teachers about something in secret, taking them away from their class momentarily. Already, a power struggle concerning the staff was being formed. At last, the kindergartners were sent away to have their very first lunch. The cafeteria offered a surprisingly nutritious lunch of 1 baked potato, 1 steak, and 1 cookie for each student. As the food lines were swarmed, some people began to take advantage of the chaos, such as a player named Icy Pop, who nabbed as many cookies as he could in one go, leaving very few for the others. Luckily, he was reprimanded, but he wasn't forced to give back the stolen items. After getting their food, the rest of the kids were headed to their seats. Some joined up with the friends they had already made earlier and were able to converse and have a nice break from their classes. After lunch, everyone was sent to recess, where they were all having a great time at the playground, except for a few students.
Get over here. I'm going to teach you a
Whoa,
lesson.
whoa, whoa, what are you doing?
Oh, wow.
Fight,
Okay.
fight, fight.
Fight.
This is a real fight.
Fight.
The players went at it and drew in a massive crowd watching them brawl. Right on cue, the vice principal arrived on the scene. The vice principal interrogated both of the students until Sleepers finally fessed up.
I'm sorry, Sleepers, I don't think you're fit for this school any longer.
In front of the entire student body that was watching through the windows, Vice Principal Endershadow expelled the first student in the competition. Endershadow took it upon himself to personally escort the first few troublemaking students to detention. The students had no idea what was in store for them and were nervous. As they arrived, they were forced into a set of ominous iron doors and found themselves in a cramped, dull room. They'd only been kept a short while this time, but acting up again would mean much longer detentions and possibly added punishments in the future. Meanwhile, people were already whispering about the first student to be expelled. Students who were there to witness the event spread the news to friends in other teams. Eventually, the story evolved until it sounded much more ominous than what actually had happened. This made the students fear Endershadow and wonder who he would target next.
But I mean, do bullies deserve to be exploded?
Expelled.
Teacher taught us.
Right.
Teacher taught us the difference in those words today.
Yeah, expelled.
I think that the vice principal might be a little bit too harsh. What do you guys feel about that?
He's spooky.
Just a smidge.
And then some people have already been sent to detention. What do you guys think that even is?
I wonder if they have to write something over and over and delete it and make you rewrite it again.
Ooh, that'd be awful.
Cruel and unusual punishment.
Yeah. I don't want to risk it. They might send me to the back rooms or something.
Some students were unconcerned about the rumors of the vice principal and continued their rule breaking regardless. Beeboop Bop was one of these students, going so far as to making a hidden trading ring as soon as he was released from detention. He had plenty of business since he had managed to find items students weren't supposed to have, especially not this early in the challenge. Eventually, the kids were all sent back to their home rooms to continue their classes. They filed in and waited to begin, temporarily forgetting the drama from earlier and getting ready to hear what the teachers had to say. However, one of the classes returned only to realize that their teacher, Ravenroo, was nowhere to be found. Instead, one of the nurses was sent to watch them in the teacher's place. They gave no explanation to the class and just began teaching them random things in the meantime. Other classes continued as intended and started going over different types of jumps and traps they may see in the upcoming parkour test and making students start over and over again until they had done it perfectly. After all the practice and failures, the class day ended, but all the students were sent to their houses' common areas to hear an important announcement from their house masters. Once the students were gathered, each housemaster had announced that each team could now vote to select a house representative and decide upon a name for their team. They explained how to vote and where to place them, as well as letting the students know that whoever is elected can speak with the principal with their concerns and suggestions on how to better the school. This was enough to get students to begin discussing who should be voted to be their representative. And few of them even gave speeches on why they should be elected for the position. As soon as the students turned in their votes for every house, the results were tallied. The house representatives for each house were announced. The elected people were Lock-in W, Kikiri, Love E, and a Musafer. What were your promises in your election that you hope that you can continue on with the principal? We'll start with you, Kiki.
More recess.
Okay, see, my campaign is primarily concerned with the deteriorating situation in our detention centers.
Oh, what happens in detention? Have you heard?
Nobody knows. It's a black box. Yeah, we believe in rehabilitative justice, restorative justice here.
Easier exams for our students because that parkour, I don't think most people are gonna make it.
Yeah, I promised everyone cookies ever since that guy, Icy Pop took all of them during lunchtime,
People need more cookies.
No one's had any luck, Yeah, it sucks. It's terrible.
After they finished celebrating their new house representatives, a lot of students got to work on deciding upon their house names. The yellow house became the Wild Lions. The blue house, the Loyal Llamas. The red house couldn't decide on a name and settled with a tie, making them Dragon Phoenix. And finally, the green house thought it would be funny to keep their name as the Greenhouse. As night fell, students retreated to their rooms. At this point, however, a rumor was beginning to spread. The absence of the red team's teacher, Ravenroo, had been noticed by many, and people were speculating about her disappearance.
I think they hit a student.
They hit a student? Wow.
I don't know. You didn't hear from me, bro.
I think
I think the teacher might have been doing some illegal things around here.
Like?
Some contraband. Well, that's just what I heard. Like, it's just a rumor.
I'm sorry. I'm eating. She just didn't fill out paperwork. I'm not really making it out to be a big deal. It's really not.
Somebody's missing?
Yeah, there's a teacher that got fired.
Oh, crap. Well, then they're not missing then.
Well, they might have, with no one. We don't actually know if they were
Right?
fired or if they're missing.
We should send a search party out if they're missing then. All right. Hey, guys?
The rumors were such a hot topic that the students were meeting up in hallways just to talk about it. Tired of hearing the rumors, a few of the other teachers had sent students to their dorm rooms and told them to stop gossiping about it or they would face detention. They all did as they were told and headed to their dorms to sleep, with the exception of the class representatives, as they were going to meet the principal to discuss their ideas at the time. The representatives each gave their own suggestions to the principal, along with the vice principal. Each inquiry was supposed to improve student life, whether it was taking away tests, giving the people more recess, or even a different menu for the cafeteria. They were mostly dismissed by the principal, except for having more food in the cafeteria in the mornings. Meanwhile, the rest of the students were in their dorms ready to sleep for the next day's test. Although some of them were nervous and talking amongst each other. Some were wanting to find an easy way out of the test. Others were scheming to either cheat or sabotage the test altogether. And a very few were not even worried about it, just wanting to sleep. The day finally ended with everyone sleeping through the night, readying themselves for the next day. Finally, it was test time. After waking up, the students headed over to the cafeteria to get some breakfast, only to be met with a pleasant surprise. As they received their food, each person was provided with an extra apple so they could be energized for the test. Everyone munched on their food at the tables, thankful for the class representatives' efforts and good deeds. Now with their hunger bars full and with some snacks for later, the houses headed for the first big challenge, the parkour final.
Students, you have all studied long and hard for this final. Some harder than others, but hard nonetheless. It's time for your test to determine who lives or who passes and who's expelled. Behind you is the parkour you will be facing.
Arcing high into the sky above the players was a huge parkour course with piston jumps, skulk trapdoor contraptions, honey blocks, and more that each student would need to brave if they wanted to pass kindergarten and move on to elementary school.
There's a 30-minute time limit to the test. Anyone who does not cross the finish line in that time will fail. On your mark, get set, go!
And with that, the test began. There were some students who had a strong start to the course and were whizzing through it. Others were struggling though, even with all the studying they had done. And then there was those that were cheating. Overall though, students were making good progress. The hard work of everyone involved was paying off. Meanwhile, down at the parkour line, there were two players getting up to no good. A teacher was helping a student by breaking the rules. Pyrannical tossed Candy Pied a potion to help them jump higher, but thankfully, Red Roo spotted them and booked it across the field. They made it to Phosphorus and Ender Shadow and explained what happened. The two took immediate action, pulling Pyrannical aside. After interrogating, they fired them on the spot. At the same time, they spotted Candyfied drinking the potion on the course and expelled them mid-jump. Not too much later, the time limit for the exam was reached. While there were plenty that had succeeded, there were still many students who had yet to complete the course. But for them, it was too late. One by one, they were expelled from the school. With the test over, Phosphorus gathered everyone for a big speech.
Now that I have you all here, I want to express how proud I am of everyone who was able to complete the test. Everyone worked hard to make it, and despite some small hiccups, everything went smoothly in the end. I would like to award points to the amazing house that had the most people clear the obstacle course. I'm talking about, of course, the Blue House. I also have one last announcement. Now that we've completed the first trial of kindergarten, your points will be more important than ever. This is because whichever house has the highest score at the end of elementary school will get to bring players back from expulsion.
With that, the students entered elementary school and rushed back to the academy to check out all the new areas that opened up. Students rushed around the school, some already exploring the tennis courts and enjoying the newly opened spaces, eating at the nearby tables, visiting on bleachers, or just playing and running around. Some students were poking their noses into the greenhouses to see the beehives or enjoy the flowers. flowers, berries, and new relaxing spots to hang out in. In the music room, players were doing their best to practice their beautiful singing, or lack of it for a few of them, as Berry pretended to be their conductor. Meanwhile, the more creative students ran happily around the art room, either visiting, pretending to paint, or using the looms to try and design some banners they'd found. As the students enjoyed themselves, a group of bullies decided to cut their classmates' fun short in the tennis area.
This is our spot.
This is ours. We've decided that we collectively own this place, and these losers should leave.
Exactly.
Oh, and what are you gonna do to make that happen?
I don't think we should say that out loud.
Fists, and lots of them.
Yeah.
Damiyami, Wonky Boo, and Casty Caster had already decided that their courts belonged only to them. They pestered every other student until they were the only 3 left in the area. Later that evening, a blue student, Montito, quickly made his way back to the greenhouses while no one was around. He quickly figured out that he could get some great trade deals by taking new resources from the greenhouse, like honey and berries, and making extra food himself. He could then sell these to students who needed more food and didn't want to wait for the cafeteria to open up again. Bebop Bop and Dogon teamed up with Montito and began operating a secret food business. Others met with them in the parking lot to trade. The trio was making a good profit while hiding between parked cars for cover. Unfortunately for them, they weren't actually as hidden as they thought. It didn't take long for one of the teachers, Georanger, to catch on. He managed to spot a few students leaving the area after a deal and quickly went to get the principal's attention. When he brought Phosphorus to the location to see what was going on, they found almost no evidence except for one very small piece of cake someone had left on the ground. Students were sent to their home rooms again. However, since they were no longer in kindergarten, they were now in the big building. It was time to vote for the new class president, replacing the role of class representatives to just one student. This student would be able to voice concerns to the higher authorities of the school on behalf of the entire student body. They all started voting, but there was a scheme being sought out. The main bully, Damiyami, started threatening other students to vote for him. He also got his friends to threaten students in their classes to vote for Damiyami, basically rigging the vote to be for himself. They were able to do this all under the teachers' noses. Unfortunately, this worked, and Damiyami was voted in to be the first class president, a role that he was planning on taking advantage of. As the student elections were going on, the principal called on some of the best behaving students in the school to give them a special job. They became the hall monitors. The students who were given the promotion were Amusifer, Choco Coco Pop, Anubis, and Yomorik. The principal explained to them their duties as hall monitors. They had to report to him once a day with any information on students misbehaving, so that he can give them proper punishments. They were allowed to stay up past curfew and had authority to bring order to anyone besides the staff. With all that being said though, he did let them know that if they did break any of the rules, they would not be sent to detention, but would be expelled immediately. When the new hall monitors were sent free, the teachers had gathered their students towards the indoor pool for an important assembly. As soon as everyone was inside, each teacher told their students that they were there to practice for the next upcoming test. Exact details weren't told, but they did let them know that swimming was a vital part in it, and so the training began. The students weren't sure exactly what to expect with the next test, but if it was anything like the last one, they needed to train and practice more than ever before. Their worries were put on hold temporarily as they were released to recess. The playground was quickly swarmed with players yet again, and students greatly enjoyed the distraction from the upcoming test. But a few students gathered behind the jungle gym for another reason. These players had gotten their hands on some contraband sweets and were handing some out to the rest of their friend group. As they were eating some cake and drinking a few bottles of honey, the class president and his bully friends noticed them. Damiyami decided to steal the forbidden treats from the hiding students, sending his 2 lackeys to do most of the work, then chasing the guilty students off before having some of the sweets themselves. The hall monitors saw the entire interaction and quickly made their way to the teacher's lounge. They told the 2 teachers there all about how the president and his friends were acting aggressively towards the other students during recess. However, they twisted the story and claimed the bullies were also the ones who had gotten contraband food and were the sole source of it. The teachers listened, and Crescent Skies made his way to the playground. He arrived just in time to find Damiyami, Casty Caster, and Monkey Boo snacking on the stolen items. He berated them and told Damiyami that he could no longer be the class president. As a result of his actions, the three were then escorted off the playground and put in detention. The three were upset they were caught, but Damiyami was the angriest of them after losing his precious title.
All right, so you got detention but you were framed. I mean, you didn't actually have all those contraband stuff. You just bullied those people and took it out.
Bullied
took it
them?
from
No. I took what was rightfully mine. And you know what? I'm gonna get my revenge because those people, they played me.
You're gonna get revenge on the hall monitors or the people with the food or
everyone.
While they went on, Montito had plans of his own. The moment he had an opportunity, he ventured out and excavated a little room around the greenhouse. It seemed that his plan was to use the area to produce and sell contraband items. He was very clever with how he built the entrance, so that it would be hard to be spotted by teachers. Soon enough, students came by and began to purchase the goods. It didn't take long for the majority of the students in the school to build up a large supply of items, namely snowballs and eggs. Word spread around the student body like wildfire. They were planning a snowball fight. One teacher heard about this information, who quickly took to the principal. There, the principal was furious and arranged for an emergency assembly at the soccer field. There, he started to tell the students just how disappointed he was in them. In the middle of his speech, however, the students all started to pelt the teachers and staff with snowballs and eggs. Chickens were everywhere. Whoa! Look at all them chickens! This is crazy! The teachers were flying back from all the snowballs and eggs that were hitting them. Phosphorus and Ender Shadow were the maddest they had ever been. They didn't expect for this kind of tomfoolery. The staff of the school were furious from the prank and sent everyone to their dorms, but they knew they couldn't punish everyone with detention or expulsion. Instead, all the students were locked in their rooms. The teachers then started to interrogate everyone in search of the culprit who was distributing the eggs and snowballs. They questioned every student, hoping to find answers. Some students brushed the teachers off and wouldn't talk, but those who would cooperate would be rewarded with points for their teams. A good number of the students fessed up and gave vital information. They told the teachers where the items were first being distributed, where the base of operation was, and most importantly, they snitched on the student who started it all, Montito. Now with the contraband seller known, the teachers took the information to the principal, who personally went to Montito's dorm room. There, he had Montito expelled for his wrongdoings. The principal then told his teachers to be ready.
Tomorrow we'll be holding the final exam for elementary school. May the odds be ever in their favor.
It was finally the morning of the final exam for elementary school. Everyone was split into different teams and sent to large aquariums. As they explored, Phosphorus explained the rules.
Capture the fish. That's the theme of this exam. In front of each aquarium, you'll find a display case showing a series of fish that have been placed into the tank. The goal is to find these variations of fish among the rest. All you students have been preparing for this day, so I expect the best out of everyone. Now, let's get started.
The students hopped into the pools. Each rushed to find a matching fish as the seconds ticked by. The exam was on a clock, and those who didn't complete the task before time would be expelled. Many individual players did exceptionally well, finding their fish quickly, while others struggled to keep up. It certainly didn't help when some students, like Damiyami, bullied the others while in the water, punching them out of the way to get to the fish. In one of the tanks, there seemed to be a student fed up with everything. Esperian G swam around the schools of fish, killing many of them with their bare fists. Luckily, the student was disqualified. As the clock continued to tick, the exam became more and more heated. Each person tried desperately to find the correct fish, but with so many different patterns and colors, it was like trying to find a needle in a haystack. Still, the students persisted until at last...
And time!
As the exam wrapped up, the losing students were expelled one after another. While some classmates mourned the losses of their friends, others rushed to grab the scraps of what was left behind. With no more points to be gained, the remaining players were sent to the soccer field for an assembly. It was time to hear the results and find out which house won. Once students were all seated on the bleachers, Phosphorus stepped up to his podium.
I'm very proud of each of your efforts today. I know you all worked hard to get where you are right now, but one team, one house in particular, worked harder than everybody else. Without further delay, it's time to announce the winners. The winning house is the Yellow House, aka the Wild Lions. As you all know by now, the winning house will be able to bring back their friends who have been expelled. And yes, I even mean the troublemakers. I hope you're ready to welcome them back. And for more good news, our funding has been increased due to everyone's performance. Starting the moment middle school opens, more areas will be available to all students.
After unkicking the players from the server and letting them back on, the returning students were whitelisted again. Everyone who had been on the yellow team exited the bus and headed back to the school. With the opening of the next stage of school, students began taking advantage of the change to explore, while others decided to remain behind and get some good old cafeteria food. There were plenty of new locations that opened up, like the baseball fields, basketball courts, a drama club room, as well as the rooftops, where some students got up to nefarious activities. Meanwhile, a different group of students set up a secret trading ring where they would exchange contraband, all right under the teachers' noses. Although the teachers weren't aware of what exactly this ring was, they knew of its existence. They began to crack down on the hall monitors, warning them to shut down the rings for good, or else they'd be expelled. The hall monitors were forced to rat out their friends. Regretfully, they handed over the information to the teachers. This upset a number of other students, though, and an anti-hall monitor resistance formed.
We are sick of those hall monitors. We deserve the right to walk the hallways and do as we please. This is our school just as much as it is theirs. So we're getting together to make sure we take them out once and for all and teach them a lesson.
All the while, fewer and fewer students were showing up at lunch, since they would rather explore the school and get up to no good, which meant that the students that were there were able to take all the leftover servings for themselves. The Blue House was able to collect the most out of everyone else, and because of it, were able to exert some leverage over the other students. Some Blue House members went to different areas with their rations, and were able to gain control over places like the rooftop. With the anti-hall monitor movement in full swing, the leader opened up another secret base that even the hall monitors didn't know about. The anti-hall monitors discussed their plans and came up with an idea to get one of those goody-goodies out of the way. They had Bazilli 1 run up to one of the monitors. Bazilli 1 then hit the student before throwing them the ruler. Just as Choco Coco Pop had picked up the stolen item and started hitting Bazilli back, Millardy showed up with a teacher in tow, making it seem like Choco had stolen the item instead and attacked the other student first. As a result, the teacher had them expelled for abusing their power. Because Millardy had been the one to report the crime, the teacher Trombono appointed her as the new replacement hall monitor. This meant the anti-hall monitor resistance now had someone on the inside. To celebrate, Millardy began handing out freebies to all the students from her hidden trading ring. The students now had a replenished supply of contraband at their disposal. Meanwhile, there were 2 kids in the picnic area that the bully leader Damiami decided to target during the break, intimidating them and hitting them with some stolen weakness potions. One kid tried to plead with the bully, while the other was ready to run away, but a teacher stepped in, knocking Damiami away from the other student. Another teacher soon approached as well, and they both scolded the bully, but agreed to not send him to detention for a small bribe.
Attention students. Please make your way to the auditorium for a short assembly.
Once all the students arrived at the assembly, Phosphorus began his announcement.
First off, with the new school and grade, we've noticed that there are more students in some of the houses than others. Because of this, we will have to transfer some of you to other houses to even all you out.
This news caused a bit of uneasiness in the crowd of students.
Now, the next big challenge that all you will have to participate in is the science fair. Each of you will make a creative and unique redstone machine, and whoever makes the best one will win. Last but not least, all the houses' points have been reset. If you all want to get your points back, you'll need to work hard together to bring back any eliminated players once high school begins.
After everyone was released, those who had to change teams were sent to a different classroom and changed their armors to their new associated houses. Although some of the students had bad history with their new houses and were teased and bullied by their new housemates because of it, others were welcomed with open arms, but were also warning each other about some of the teachers, since a few had a reputation of being strict and hard-headed.
Yeah, Geo Ranger,
bad news bears, dude. Yeah, bad news
Yeah,
bears.
he's like crazy strict. If he sees that we have all these extra baseballs, he's gonna think that's contraband.
Seriously, just baseball?
Literally anything is contraband.
Oh, he's one of those?
If he thinks that it's contraband, he's gonna, all these extra baseballs are contraband, he's gonna punish us.
While the students were chatting about the new teachers, one of them overheard their conversation and set them all to detention for their gossip. As classes became more rigorous, the smartest, nerdiest students quickly became popular, and students tried to buddy up with them, trying to gain any advantage they could in the upcoming test. The Jesterer even tried bribing Gudaduda with cookies in order to see his homework. It was also time to vote for the new class representatives and presidents. Students casted their vote, and soon the results were in. Unlike last time, it was a nerdy student who won, XX Redru X. Teachers began to teach their students lessons about redstone contraptions. Although some students excelled, others seemed very confused. Teachers had to call a mandatory study hall for failing students in an attempt to try to get them to pass. At the end of the morning classes, the failing students were separated for study hall, while the rest of them were allowed to go to lunch. While at lunch, there were less teachers, and unfortunately, this meant that the school bullies were able to stir up trouble with the new class president rather easily. The bullies swarmed Redru and attacked him with poison potions.
You deserve this.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, you didn't do anything, and then you took my spot.
Hey, stop hitting me.
Oh, no.
What's going on here? What are you guys doing? Knock it off. Knock it off.
Hey.
What is happening here? Tell me.
I didn't do anything, no.
He
poisoned us. No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
just eating.
Sure, we'll see about that. All of you, now, with me. Let's go, right now. Come on, follow me, move it.
The three bullies and Redru were taken to the principal's office, where the teachers began to question the students.
Where did you get those potions?
Your mom's house.
Looks like I'll have to pull in everyone individually.
The lunch lady?
Next.
From Damiami.
Okay, that one's true, but not what I meant. I'll need witnesses. Crescent, get the nerds.
Yeah, I saw Damiami throw him out.
It was the strawberry head guy.
Wait, why am I even up here? We all saw...
You don't pay the lunch ladies enough.
Well, if no one knows where Damiami got it, and he's the aggressor, I guess I should expel Damiami.
Right before Phosphorus could expel Damiami, one of the teachers, Trombono, arrived and wanted to talk with the principal in private. Trombono suggested to the principal that instead of expelling Damiami, they should instead send them along with the other two bullies to detention and rehabilitate them to become model students.
Are we almost done?
Just about. After talking with one of your teachers, I have come to my decision. Damiami, you will not be expelled, but instead sent over to detention with one Kibu and Caster.
Yes, all right. I can work with that.
Wait, what?
Now, Redru, although you were acting in self-defense, we cannot accept any form of violence here, and because of that, I'm going to have to take away your class president position.
Wait, what? What? No way! That's not fair. Why am I getting punished for defending myself?
Enough. I've made my decision, and you will both abide by them. Go on, then. I'll have one of the teachers show you out.
Once the principal sent everyone on their way, the bullies were escorted all the way to the detention center by Crescent Skies, who would monitor them until their time there was up.
Just you wait. The other students won't be safe from us for long.
Yeah, sure, whatever. Just sit down and stay quiet, guys.
It was only a matter of time before something harsh would happen to the other students once they got out of detention. XX Redru X got busy right away, calling his new nerdy allies together to plan. They decided on an elaborate prank to get back at the bullies and went off to carry out their individual roles. Waiting until night, they snuck out of their dorms and past teachers to start grabbing everything they would need for the prank. As Organon and Appy Apple grabbed pumpkins from the farms, Amucifer used his hall monitor status to grab a box of redstone supplies from the storage room. Meanwhile, Redru snuck into the library and grabbed a few enchanted books from behind the librarian's desk. The next day, the group met outside detention during break. The bullies were forced to stay in detention at all times, except for lunch and nighttime, so Redru and the others quickly began constructing their bully trap before they were released. They finished the job in just a short amount of time, and now only had to wait for the right moment. Sometime later, once night rolled in, soon, the bullies were freed from detention. Dispensers activated and forcibly equipped Dami with a carved pumpkin head. His friends, following close behind, were also caught in the trap. None of them were able to take them off, as the pumpkins were enchanted with curse of binding.
Get this off of me!
Go tell someone who cares.
The next day, Damiami and his friend ran to Ender Shadow to complain.
Calm down, I could barely understand what you're saying.
I'm out of here.
You two, go back to class while I decide what to do with you.
The facility, upset with the way that the student body had been acting, met together in the teacher's lounge and discussed picking a new student president. They elected Millardy to the position and showered her in gifts, hoping to ensure she'd be on their side. At this point, it was clear that Millardy was a schemer in for the long game. She began to spread misinformation among the student body, hoping to brew discourse and have people turn against each other. Things were not going smoothly at all. The students kept rebelling, pranking, and the teachers weren't able to find a way to deal with it. It was time to cut the funding the school received. True and enter. Good luck with that, students. Ooh, already. That's gonna be fun. Oh. Phosphorus announced to the school that they no longer could afford pest control, and so mobs would begin to spawn around the school at night. Despite warnings from the staff to not venture outside after dark, some students dared others to go outside in exchange for goods. Unfortunately, not every one of them made it, like Honorary, who ended up being killed by some zombies. Others began to create and trade contraband weapons in an effort to defend themselves from the new pests. Students found a way to manufacture the goods and trade them secretly. Unfortunately, they weren't very good. After purchasing some weapons, another group of students attempted to brave the dark and fight some mobs. Given the quality of the tools though, they ended up breaking mid-battle. Lucky for them, the lunch lady, Salt and Pepper, happened to be gardening nearby and leapt into the rescue. She used an iron shovel to whack the mobs off the students and led them into a nearby greenhouse for safety. Not once to pass up an opportunity like this, Golden Noodles and Icy Pop chatted with Salt and Pepper and were able to buy her onto the students' side with contraband items they had on hand. Salt and Pepper leaked a lot of information to the two students, letting them in on facts like where specific teachers would be when they do their nightly rounds. Icy Pop and Golden Noodles quickly spread this around, and soon the students were able to utilize this information and build new trading areas where the teachers were likely to miss them. Not only that, but Millardy and her group of anti-hall monitors made their own special spot too. With Millardy in on the secret though, it didn't take long for the teachers to catch wind of what was happening. Action was taken, and the trading ring was quickly busted. Ender Shadow even fired Salt and Pepper. In an act of protest, the students began to plot by word of mouth. They began to spread the news that there was going to be a skip period, and they would play like they used to be able to during recess. When the new day rolled around, the plan was executed.
Oh wow, they actually did it. They're skipping class. Look at these people are playing. That's fun. What are you doing? Dang, look at all these kids skipping class. Teachers are gonna be so mad. Okay, so what's going on out here? Tell me about,
You wanna know what's going on here? I'll tell you what's going on here. We're rebelling against the system here. Recess isn't a privilege, it's a right. Hear that, everyone? The only thing you have to lose is your chain!
Chill.
Whoa!
Chill, dude.
Calm down.
Oh, whoa.
Don't mind him. We just want to have some actual fun. He just had too many cookies today.
That makes sense. So you actually went to class.
Yeah, I did. I have no idea where everyone else is, honestly. I just go to class, hall monitor. It's kind of my job.
Did you even know people were skipping?
What?
Ender Shadow had enough. He marched up to the principal's office and demanded that stricter rules be enforced. Eventually, Phosphorus reluctantly caved in. Ender Shadow sent out a group of his best teachers to go and deal with the rowdy students. They wasted no time in reaching the playground, where they rounded them up for an emergency assembly in the auditorium. The teachers were definitely turning up the heat. Now, anyone who skipped classes without a teacher's note would get detention. Additionally, anyone caught with contraband or cheating would have half of their house houses points deducted. Lastly, anyone who reached 3 visits to detention would be expelled. All the while, the principal was suffering with his own issues. Sunstricken passed on a note that was from the superintendent, which stated that they would cut even more funding if the students continued to misbehave. There would be no way out of this situation. Now the students had to either step in line or face the consequences. Cliques of students started to pop up. One was centered around a Mucifer, who made a name for himself as a star student. He knew the most about redstone devices and used that knowledge to teach other students for the next test, which quickly turned into bossing other kids around.
I mean, yeah, he's kind of crazy, you know, he's kind of whacked out.
He's kind of a dictator, but...
Yeah, he's kind of a dictator, but I don't
He's
know, I've
letting
seen
like
worse.
the power get to his head because he's really good at redstone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have not learned anything.
Why haven't you learned anything?
Cause he's mean. All he does is be mean to us. I feel like I have to run errands all day long for him, and no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about it.
What kind of errands?
I rather not speak.
Yeah, I started out with kindness and goodness of heart until I found out power manipulation really gets you places.
Appy Apple finally had enough of the bossing and told off a Mucifer, saying he was no better than the bully they ran out of school. A Mucifer got angered at the accusation and attacked Appy Apple. His other friends ran off to tell a nurse what had happened between them. The nurse teamed up with the resistance to take down the star student. The students started a plan to sabotage a Mucifer with the nurse. They convinced one of the teachers to give an unexpected pop quiz. 88 Wolf was confused why the students wanted to have a pop quiz, but took it as an initiative to learn. One by one, the students had to craft the item their teacher would place down. Everyone had passed, except a Mucifer, who had no idea how to craft a target. Turns out he was never really smart. He had just been using intel from the teachers to pass his previous test with flying colors. He failed and got sent to detention. The plan was a success. Everyone else in the classroom celebrated their victory. The students that had thwarted a Mucifer went to go and thank Strawberry Sun for her help in their plan. Unfortunately for them, the class president, Millardy, snuck into the hallway and was able to figure out what was happening. Quietly, she slipped away, waiting for the moment that the other students left. Millardy hid around the bend of the hallway in wait. When Strawberry Sun rounded the corner, she struck.
I know what you're up to.
Where'd you come from?
Don't play dumb with me.
Hey, aren't you getting a little too serious about...
I am serious. So, how about we make a little deal?
Huh? Golden apple?
That's right, and it could be yours for a fee.
The two of them made an agreement. Strawberry Sun would find a way to provide Millardy with an advantage in the upcoming test, and Millardy would get Strawberry Sun extra rare items like golden apples. An easy task for her since she was buddies with the principal. Speaking of Phosphorus, the principal called a small assembly of students and made an announcement. According to him, the lack of teamwork amongst the students as of late was alarming to him, and he wanted them to learn to build those skills. Therefore, he was hosting a scavenger hunt, and the theme was to find out his favorite food. The houses that were able to figure it out would be given more points. The principal's pleas seemed to work a little bit. Each house was able to come together and work as a team. Unfortunately, the students still saw an opportunity to kick down the opposing houses. The teacher scattered clues around the school and let the students loose to roam and find each one. These hints were hidden in various areas, and some even led to false conclusions. It was a test of skills and intelligence to separate the red herrings from the real ones. The wild llamas were the first to find the clues hidden in the cafeteria. Between some false leads, they found that the first clue was a carrot. Meanwhile, the red team found another crucial ingredient around the greenhouses, a wooden bowl. Alongside the bowl, there was a clue about rabbits, which led them to the fields, where the animals were roaming free, destroying the crops. Within another building, they found another hint. The green team had a plan. As they arrived at the front of the school and found a clue about mushrooms, they destroyed the set, erasing any evidence of the clue. While it wouldn't prevent other teams from getting the items they needed, it certainly would stop it from being easy. The team followed the lead of the clue they destroyed and found their next ingredient, baked potatoes. All the while, the blue team was going on a wild rabbit hunt, metaphorically speaking. As luck would have it, they were the ones running into all the false hints. They weren't the only unfortunate ones though. Just as the red team was getting close to the answer, they encountered a false false hint that sent them back. It was gold. Eventually, each house was able to come up with a final food. 2 of the 4 houses, the greenhouse and the loyal llamas, came out with the correct solution: rabbit stew. The other 2 had failed. Luckily, it didn't mean deduction of points, but it only meant that the other 2 houses were pulling ahead even more. Wubberwub and Redru, along with the rest of their house, were annoyed, knowing that the final test was right around the corner. With their newfound free time, students began coming up with new ideas of things they could do, such as digging hidden tunnels around the school to gain access to the sewer systems. These systems became the primary routes for hiding from teachers and trading contraband, as well as providing a safe place to share secrets on upcoming tests and ideas for cheating. Beboop Bop even set up a slightly more permanent spot for his business, where he was making even more deals than before. A couple of Red Team students, Redru and Cateman, who wanted to find these tunnels, went to the nurse for help. They thought that she, of all people, would know where these were and would help them if they paid her enough. Unfortunately for them, Strawberry Sun refused to tell them anything, even refusing their attempts at bribing her for the info. They both left her office empty-handed, but realized something fishy had to be going on and started paying close attention. It didn't take long for them to discover that the nurse had been secretly meeting up with their class president and hall monitor, Malardy. It seemed they had been making deals behind everyone's back, and the 2 Dragon Phoenixes weren't happy about it.
Okay, so what have you guys discovered recently?
Don't even get me started, dude.
I witnessed this. I saw both Malardy and the nurse sneaking into an underground place together, and I think they have a deal going on.
Ooh. Yeah, they absolutely do.
And that's why the nurse isn't trading anymore. Malardy took over.
It all just sucks, so I think we need to prank them.
The 2 immediately began enlisting the help of some fellow students from other houses, trying to think up a new prank or trap they could use on both Strawberry Sun and Malardy. Eventually, they had an idea. Part of the group used their break time to collect trapdoors they would need from lesser used classrooms. Afterwards, they made their way to the hideout Cateman had seen and began laying the trap, a loud noisemaker that would set off once the 2 troublemakers returned. Pixel, Fury, and Redru got to work digging a hidden room under the hideout as Pizzarella began planning out the redstone trigger. They then began placing redstone, repeaters, and the stolen doors and filled the newly dug room with a system before quickly testing it. They quickly turned off the trap and left, resetting the trigger as they went back up the ladder. As night fell, Malardy and Strawberry Sun went back to the secret room to discuss another trade. They climbed down and were immediately jump scared by the sound of loud trap doors going off constantly. They panicked and started frantically trying to break all the redstone before anyone noticed, but they were too late. The trap was a success and had gotten the attention of the vice principal, who had been nearby when the trap went off. The nurse and class president were brought into Ender Shadow's office, where he was demanding explanations from both of them. They both reluctantly told him about their double deal, and the class president even admitted she had been hired as a spy by the teachers as well. Ender Shadow took away Malardy's class president and hall monitor titles before sending her away. He then dealt with Strawberry Sun by firing her on the spot, meaning she was permanently out of the game. Ender Shadow had found out about their plans through other students and planned to punish them for it. Both Pixel Fury and Pizzarella panicked as they realized this would be their 3rd strike. While Cateman and Redru were both sent to detention, the other 2 pleaded to be spared from expulsion. The VP didn't care and expelled them without a second thought. Once classes started the next morning, teachers had begun teaching their students about redstone in order to help them with the upcoming redstone challenge, starting with lectures on how exactly redstone works, crafting recipes, and basic knowledge on how each part affects other parts. Once lessons were over, a few teachers had given their students materials to practice making their redstone machines, with everyone having varying results. Troyne was one of these teachers, and they took a hands-off approach with his students and oversaw their processes over the course of the school day. A few of his students were able to put what they learned to good use, like making an automatic farm, a small movable machine, and even a redstone door. A couple of teachers had decided to demonstrate a few redstone builds to help out the students. Each one had their own method of making redstone machines, some being way more complex than others, but the students were understanding them for the most part. Trombono was one of the teachers that took their classes out and demonstrated simple redstone machinery, It wasn't impressive, but at the very least, people were having fun learning.
Hey, it's all good. It's all part of the curriculum and all part of my plan. And it is a pretty good build if I don't say so myself.
Do you think it's going to impress the judges, the principal and the vice principal on the final exam?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a slam dunk, if you know what I mean.
Because of your expertise, do you think your students will have a better chance at the final exam?
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I mean, I didn't study Redstone in college for 8 years for nothing.
You went to college for Redstone?
Yeah, I did.
What might help them in the actual final exam? Oh, okay.
I did it.
I think they'll be fine.
Oh, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. I built a plane.
What?
Yeah, I built a plane.
What?
What do you mean, what? I built a plane with my team.
Like an actual plane? You built a plane that flew?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that what planes do?
At last, the final test to see who would graduate middle school began. After taking the students out to the testing field, the teachers decided to split every house into 3 teams each. The worst performing team out of each color would be expelled, except for the winning house, who would be able to keep all their members. At the time of the test, the Wild Lions were in the lead with points, giving them a nice cushion in case things went wrong. Following them was the Dragon Phoenix house, then the Green house, and in last place, the Loyal Llamas. In order to win points, each team was tasked to build as complex of a redstone mechanism as possible. The students took their challenge to heart, immediately setting out to impress the teachers as they watched them at the center pavilion. Carefully, they built their redstone contraptions block by block. Some teams worked together better than others, while some had internal issues. On the Green team, Anubis's group worked on using what they learned to build an automatic sugarcane farm. Meanwhile, on the Red team, Freezerburns' crew was using what they learned to craft a flying machine. They had some great teamwork and were able to put together an impressive display as it soared over the field and into the break wall. Icy Pop put together his talents with the others, and after some hard work, they came out with an interesting looking music maker. All the while, the Blue team was also working hard. Wubberwub, Castycaster, and the rest of their group spent their time making a disco floor. Although fairly simplistic, it was definitely a flashy display. Iridium, Rizzard, Lorenza, and Lockin created a retractable staircase. Interestingly, on the Yellow team, Cyanaric's team built a slightly underwhelming roller coaster, while Dashin X and his group managed to craft a retractable pool. Amidst the chaos, one of the teachers saw their opportunity to help their house get through the test. Richie snuck over to the Yellow team's center and passed along some skulk sensors. With those on their side, the Yellow team was almost guaranteed to get a boost in their score. Unfortunately for them, someone across the field was paying attention. Our Power immediately went to go report the banned items to Phosphorus. The principal took action at once.
Ender Shadows told me I've got to be more tough on people. So you're up first, Richie.
Oh, come on. I'm
sorry, Richie, but you did this to yourself. You're fired.
Wait, no. I'm sorry.
It never gets easier.
As the last few minutes of the test approached, everyone scrambled to finish their machines. On the Green team's far end, the Jesterer, One Key, and Kobe were preparing themselves for the ultimate sacrifice.
What are you doing? What the heck is this supposed to be?
Haha, get pranked! That's what you get!
On the other side of the Red House's corner, Moonlove, Mucifer, Redrue, and the others had put together their redstone knowledge to build an impressive redstone elevator. Unfortunately, in the final moments, they made a small mistake in the wiring. As Moonlove tested out the contraption, they realized their error.
Whoa, that's not stopping. Oh, man.
Does this mean we fail?
At last, it was time for the contraptions to be judged by Phosphorus and Ender Shadow. While the situation went on, I got some last opinions from the students before the final call was placed on the builds.
All right, so how are you guys feeling about your contraptions?
I'm feeling pretty great.
I'm feeling pretty solid. It's not the most complex device that I've ever made, but I think getting to sequence the music is kind of a novelty in and of itself, and I don't think anyone else did something like that.
True. How do you feel about yours, Redrue?
Well, I was feeling really positive about it until, just look up.
I don't see it even anymore.
Let's be honest here. When the judge came over and I pulled that lever, they were in the pool immediately. Just these boys having fun. Yeah, you boys having fun over there? Yeah.
No, yeah. You see, we sacrificed because I think we all, as the green team, agreed that Malarty deserves to be expelled. They did not expel her.
Well, someone's got to do it. Someone's got to make the sacrifice. And then who helped with the party floor?
Oh, yeah, that was me. We love the party over there. We can have a little fun. We can make a little dance floor or something. We kind of listened to the music that was going on over there and used it as inspiration.
The results were in. Phosphorus and Ender Shadow had come to their decision after some discussion.
And the winner is House Phoenix.
As Phosphorus made the announcement, the losing students were kicked from the game. With that, the middle school's final exam wrapped, and the rest of the students would move on to the next stage, high school. The next day began with the remaining students eating breakfast in the cafeteria. Since it was right after the exam, most were less active than usual, since the loss of the majority of the student body. But some were still up and about. A couple of students were excited to make it so far into the game, and couldn't wait to see how high school would differ from the rest of the grades.
All right, so you guys are now in high school. How do you guys feel?
I feel old. What comes after this?
Graduation, I guess. And then the real world.
The real world? Oh, no.
What do you think will be the final exam?
That's a good question.
I don't think I can do more parkour.
No, parkour. I don't know what I'll do. Rage quit like the dude from before.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. That parkour was easy.
All right, well, good luck. I hope you guys graduate.
Once everyone was well fed, the principal called all the remaining students and staff to a room to explain how the final phase of the game would play out. Phosphorus informed everyone that all the teams will merge into 2 separate houses because the numbers were dwindled for each team, and that the point system would no longer be given to the houses. Finally, the next exam would be kept a secret from everyone until further notice. The announcement shocked every single student, realizing that the game had turned from co-op competition to every man for themselves. They must choose completely new names for the 2 houses. As soon as the meeting ended, every student and teacher was assigned their new house and color. They were sent to drop off their old team colors while getting new ones through the new machines. The new team colors were orange and purple, to which most of the students were happy about getting. They were told that a new common area had opened up for the teams, an orange magma themed space for the orange team and a violet crystal themed one for the purple team. All the students gathered themselves up to explore their new respective areas and got accustomed to them really quick. They settled in their spots and chatted away until a few started discussing their new house names. Multiple people in the purple house were brainstorming ideas for their new team name, and as ideas were being tossed back and forth, they eventually unanimously agreed to call themselves Dinosaur Knights. As for the orange team, they tried to be as coordinated as possible with their people to get any and all ideas for their house names. It took them a long time, but they soon came up with the name the Pumpkin Spice Lattes. The rest of the day was essentially a free day for the students, as the principal wanted them to all get adjusted with their new houses. The majority of the students stayed in the common areas, while the rest had gone out and wandered around the school and enjoyed the rest of the downtime they had left until classes started up again. During this time though, 2 students had gone off to jump around the fountain, but as they were talking and goofing around, one of them fell in. There was no way for them to get out, and without a bucket or blocks they could mine, they panicked, unsure of what to do. Luckily for them, another student from the opposite house was nearby and heard their cry for help. They jumped into the fountain and built a small way for them to climb out, to which the 2 friends were incredibly thankful. A new school day has started, and the first official day of high school was off to a clean start, as the teachers had assigned the students to pick their final class president of the grade. Each house had their top candidates, narrowed down to 2 students, Our Power and Jorgaj. Both students gave their gratitude towards their classes, as well as a small speech on what they could do to improve the school if they were voted to be class president. All the students casted their votes, and the tallies were gathered and calculated. The official class president winner was Jorgaj. Once that was over, the teachers handed every student new assignments, but these ones were more difficult than what they anticipated, as all the writing work was more complex than what standard Minecraft players would know. Jorgaj tried to speak up for the students in his class about the assignments, but unfortunately, his teacher refused to listen, and his suggestions went unanswered by the rest of the teachers as well. With the president's attempts of helping the students being unanswered, a group of them had decided enough was enough and began to organize a peaceful protest against the higher up staff for the unfair schoolwork they wanted to give the students. Another group took over the arts and crafts room to create banners with a specific pattern and color scheme to symbolize their protest, and because the room had plenty of supplies, they were able to make an abundant amount of banners to pass around. The group dispersed and began to distribute the banners and messages around to as many students as they could. Luckily for them, pretty much everyone was fed up with the schoolwork and agreed to participate in the protest. Even the hall monitors were getting in on it. Banners were being placed everywhere in the school and at a fast pace. Hallways were being quickly filled up with them, and the auditorium was being infiltrated by the students as well. Once most of the school was filled with banners, a couple of students grouped up outside at the front of the school. The protest grew large enough to grab the attention of the principal and vice principal. It got to the point where the vice principal had no choice but to come down from his office and step in to restore order and bring things back to normal. Before anything drastic happened, the group of students went back into their school and continued their protest any chance they got. Banners were still being passed around, the protest staying strong until the message was heard. The students needed a leader for their protest, and luckily for them, they already had the perfect candidate for the position. Since he was already the class president and was generally liked by the student body, Georgaj became the head honcho of the protest. After the leader was decided, students continued with their protest, but unfortunately, some of the teachers began to crack down on them. They were confiscating many banners and threatening any and all students who participated with detention or expulsion. Unfortunately for the staff, it wasn't enough, as the principal had ordered the instructors to the teachers' lounge. During the meeting, Phosphorus ordered them all to make sure that they do their job and to stop the protest as soon as possible, or they would have to turn in their uniforms. In the meantime, all the students were forced to go to their classes, despite the chaos. While they were mid-lesson, they were all interrupted by an announcement from the principal saying that Obsidian Ninja had gone missing. If anyone knew about their whereabouts, they were encouraged to report it to a teacher for a point reward. The students decided to search for the missing player, motivated by the points. Some students used very questionable methods to help find the missing students. They destroyed school property in the process in hopes of getting the points. Unfortunately for those students, it didn't take long for the teachers to start catching some of them in the act. They were scolded and told that they were only meant to keep an eye out for the missing student, not destroy school property. The destructive students that were caught were sent to detention right away. In the meantime, other students were given an early break so the teachers could focus on fixing the new mess and making repairs to the school. Since the teachers were now fully distracted, a group of students decided to take advantage of the situation and ran away while they had a clear chance. They made their way to the back half of the school and dug down next to the outer wall. There didn't seem to be any barrier blocks underground here to stop them, so they managed to get out surprisingly quickly. Once free, they distanced themselves from the wall and got straight to work, collecting wood and other materials they could use to help them survive outside the school. They did this while the teachers had no idea they were still missing. As they were looking for a good hiding place to start building their new home, they suddenly found some berries, which they hadn't run into yet while outside the wall. Risen then noticed some trapdoors nearby, and as the group approached, the missing student, Obsidian Ninja, peeked out. It turned out that he had been living here this whole time. He'd even brought some stolen items from the school and had a small makeshift farm. He came out to visit with the escaped group and told them about the idea he just had for a rebellion. Since they had a good-sized group, he convinced them that they should be the ones to try and start it, but also mentioned he had no desire to go back and therefore wouldn't join them. He just wanted to watch the chaos from the shadows. He did at least offer to give them materials to help, including the diamonds he had just mined. The group eventually agreed, and Killian Blue offered to be the leader. Obsidian Ninja handed him the diamonds, and he crafted a new diamond sword to lead the charge. Completely unaware of what was to come, the rest of the students returned to their classes the next day. But just as everything seemed to be settling down, the revolution that was brewing finally began to bubble over with the return of the runaway students.
Uh-oh. So, you got anything going on later?
Not really, no. I was thinking we could go catch a movie.
The facility tried to manage the rowdy students, but weren't expecting any of them to have weapons. Completely outmatched, the teachers were forced to flee. Around the school, things were really heating up. The rebellion was in full swing, and students were marking the buildings with their pattern.
Hey you, get back here.
Nuh-uh.
What do you mean, nah? This is getting out of hand.
The principal was trying to get things under control, but it was all too much for him. It looked like it was time for the superintendent to make an appearance. All of the remaining student body was teleported to the auditorium.
Bronzo, you're the superintendent.
That's right. I was always him. And I'm sorry, Phosphorus, but you're fired.
No.
Now, Ender Shadow, you're the new principal. Congratulations. Step it up, or else. Knowing just what needed to be done, the new principal, Ender Shadow, announced that it was time for the final exam.
The final exam will be a bedrock prison escape.
For their final tests, the students were taken to the testing fields, where their bedrock prisons awaited them. In light of recent events, no student had enough points to be exempt from the tests, so all odds were on the table. All the students were split into random tests of 3. These teams had to work together as a unified team to successfully make their way out of the prison. The test was difficult, from starting out in lava parkour with a tricky scavenger hunt to make a ladder, following up with a redstone tests, some parkour, and dodging fully armed skeletons, and even a void maze. The students were tested over all the material they had learned throughout their journey. Some students were lucky and had good teammates. They got through each of the challenges, helping each other all along the way, working hard to figure out what they needed to do, and guided each other through the maze till they eventually hit the button at the end and made it out fully intact. Others weren't so fortunate. A few groups had difficulties agreeing with one another, arguing about redstone until they ran out of time, or fighting on the parkour and falling into the lava right away. There were also groups that had one player that refused to wait and got their team killed as a result. Others just couldn't get past the skeletons without dying, and one team even died on their very first challenge when the person with the ladders accidentally fell into the lava and died with them, dooming their team immediately. Once time was up, the remaining students that weren't out of the prison yet were expelled on the spot, regardless of how close they were to the end. With that, the last test was finally over, and it was time for graduation. The graduating class that was left came out to just 15 students at the end. These last students were gathered around the podium, where myself, Ender Shadow, and all the remaining teachers stood.
Congratulations, students. Those of you still standing here have survived so much and accomplished many things to be here. You've proven to be the very best from the school, or at least the luckiest, and it's time for you to be recognized for it. I'm honestly amazed any of you are even here despite everything. So, congratulations for surprising me. That's pretty difficult to do. And now, it's time for us to hear from Bronzo himself.
After his speech, I stepped up to congratulate them as well. Hello, students. Congratulations on successfully completing the challenge. You've all survived and thrived through kindergarten, elementary, middle school, and even high school. Despite bullies, corrupt teachers, difficult tests, and more, you're all still here, standing triumphantly. You are all awesome and winners. Now it's time for all of you to come up and accept your diplomas. The class prepared to walk on stage and claim their prize. One by one, they walked up and received their diplomas and got a personal congratulations from me. I had one last surprise for the winning contestants for all their hard work. Everyone who graduated was now moving on to college.